Today we're looking at Morelogin. Now if you've been shopping around for Antidetect browsers, you've probably come across it already. It's advertised pretty heavily and pricing looks cheap, and on paper it covers the basics. But the reason I wanted to review it is simple. Morelogin looks a lot like AdsPower, not just a little bit similar. I'm talking about the same layout, same design, same pricing, same overall structure. Enough that it raises a pretty obvious question. So we're going to do a proper deep dive. What Morelogin actually is, whether they copied AdsPower, interface and usability, fingerprint quality, proxies, automation, cloud phones, trust and reputation, pricing, and my final verdict. So let's get into it. What is Morelogin? For anyone new to this space, Morelogin is a Chinese origin anti-detect browser from a company registered in Singapore, which is pretty standard for Chinese tools in this category. Like every anti-detect browser, the idea is straightforward. You create multiple browser profiles and each one gets its own fingerprint. Different user agent, time zone, fonts, canvas, everything. To websites, each profile looks like a completely separate real device. Now Morelogin offers Chromium and Firefox profile options, profile sharing for Teams, synchronizer to mirror actions across Windows, and a newer cloud phone feature for running virtual Android devices. Standard stuff on the surface. The interesting part starts when you put it next to AdsPower. Did they just copy AdsPower? So let's address the obvious. Morelogin looks a lot like AdsPower's clone, and I'm not the only one saying it. Multiple reviewers have flagged the same thing, and Proxies pointed out the similarities in their coverage. Some sites have referred to Morelogin as a side project of AdsPower, which I can't verify, but the overlap is hard to ignore. Similar interface, similar pricing structure, same low-cost entry point, same country registration. At a certain point, it stops feeling like coincidence. And that matters because trust is a massive deal in this category. You're handing over your browser sessions, accounts, cookies, and fingerprints to a company with unknown data storage policies. The reputation picture doesn't help either. Morelogin is well known for fabricated reviews, including examples that appear to be AI generated or clearly promotional. One source noted that some reviews come from people who also show up in Morelogins own documentation. Now that doesn't prove fraud, but it does raise more questions. For privacy software, a clone reputation plus a shaky review profile is not a great combination. Interface and user experience. Now if you've used AdsPower, Morelogin will feel immediately familiar. If you haven't, which is most new users, it can be rough going. The main issues are poor machine translation and overloaded UI. Almost nothing is automatic or one click. Buttons everywhere, pop-up banners, unclear settings scattered throughout. Basic profile creation is marginally cleaner than AdsPower, but most actions still drop you into advanced settings you likely know nothing about. And because the translation is patchy in places, some of those settings are genuinely hard to interpret. Now, I want to be fair. Interfaces are subjective and you can get used to most tools over time. But if you're a non-technical user who just wants to manage a handful of accounts for clients, this is not going to be a smooth onboarding experience. Compared to GoLogin, Multilogin, or Octo browser, the interface simply isn't refined. It's functional once you know your way around, but it doesn't feel like anyone has prioritized the new user experience anytime recently. Proxies. Morelogin doesn't include usable built-in proxies. There's a button to purchase proxies inside the app, but what happens next is completely unclear. That's a genuine weakness in 2026 when most serious competitors bundle residential proxy traffic as standard. Now you're paying for the browser, then sourcing proxies separately, then spending extra time figuring out how to connect everything through an interface that isn't exactly helping you. No one-click operations. You need to know your proxy type, know where to input it, know what settings to adjust. Alternatives like GoLogin and Multi-Login bundle proxy bandwidth on all plans and make the whole process smooth. Morelogin doesn't come close on this front. Fingerprint quality, live test. Now, the part that actually matters. I've got a fresh default profile running with a clean residential proxy, so we're testing the browser itself, running it through both pixelscan.net and iphay.com. Same result as AdsPower. iphay.com detects that I'm running Morelogin specifically on a default profile straight out of the box. The entire point of this software is to be undetectable. And if a fingerprint checking website can identify your Antidetect browser by name, platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Amazon have almost certainly caught up too. Now, some people will say just tweak the settings and it will pass. Maybe. But the fact that the default experience fails this test means you're already doing extra work just to reach baseline. And most users won't know which settings to change or why. Now, it might not get you banned today, but over time, that underlying detection creates a pattern of scrutiny that becomes a real problem at scale. Cloud phone. Alright, so this is one of the stronger parts of the product. Morelogin's Cloud Phone gives you virtual Android devices in the cloud for mobile-first workflows. TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, that's genuinely useful. You're running real apps, not imitations, and that makes a meaningful difference. New users get 100 free minutes to test it, which is generous enough to properly evaluate before spending anything. There's also a built-in app marketplace. Now, 2 caveats though. The UI is still rough, so getting it working takes some practice, and the pricing model is pay per minute, which sounds reasonable until you realize that uploading videos to TikTok or Instagram burns through both minutes and proxy data very quickly. Test it in real work conditions before committing. That said, if your workflow is genuinely mobile first, Cloud Phone is one of the strongest reasons to consider Morelogin at all. Automation. This is a notable gap worth calling out clearly. Morelogin doesn't have the no-code RPA that AdsPower built part of its reputation on. If you want to record a sequence of actions, clicks, form fields, scrolls, and replay them across dozens of profiles without writing code, Morelogin simply doesn't offer that. What it does have is a synchronizer for mirroring actions across profiles simultaneously, which is reportedly solid for repetitive tasks across multiple accounts. And there's a local API for developers working with Selenium or Puppeteer, which is fairly standard across the category. There's also some automation available specifically for Cloud Phone profiles. So if mobile is your focus, it's not a complete dead end. But for browser-based no-code automation, the gap is real and worth factoring in before you commit. Pricing. Now, pricing is where Morelogin makes its strongest first impression. The free plan gives you 2 permanent profiles, 2 team seats, and 100 minutes of Cloud Phone time. That extra team seat on the free plan is actually a genuine differentiator. Most competitors don't offer it, and it makes Morelogin practical for small freelance startups without spending anything. Paid plans start at $9 a month for 10 profiles, with a flexible calculator from there. 10 profiles and free members comes to $14. 50 profiles is $30. 1,000 profiles with 20 members is $250. Now that looks competitive until you factor in that proxies aren't included. API limits also aren't mentioned anywhere on the pricing page, which tells you that they're not really building for serious automation users. So if you're bringing your own proxies, Morelogin can be a cost-effective option. But GoLogin and Multi-Login both start from $9 a month and include proxy bandwidth. So Morelogin's only real pricing advantage comes back to that one extra free team seat. Verdict? Morelogin is a budget anti-detect browser that does enough to be usable, but not much more than that. What's genuinely good? The free plan with 2 team seats is one of the better free offerings in this space. And that extra seat is a real differentiator for small freelance startups. Cloud Phone with a free trial is a meaningful plus if mobile workflows are your thing. Profile creation is reasonably quick once you know the tool, and the solo users or small teams on a tight budget who already have their own proxies, the pricing is genuinely fair. What's not so good? Well, the tool is heavily derivative of AdsPower, and the trust picture around that is kind of uncomfortable. The reputation for fabricated reviews doesn't help. There's no browser-based RPA, which is a real gap for anyone who needs no-code automation. Proxies aren't included, and the process of adding your own is more complicated than it should be in 2026. And the fingerprint test results raise legitimate questions about how well it actually protects you on the platforms that matter most. So, my honest take. Morelogin works as a low-cost option if you go in with clear eyes about its limitations. But it's hard to make a strong case for it when Go Login and Multi-Login are priced virtually the same, include proxy bandwidth, offer a significantly cleaner experience, and don't come with the same trust concerns. Go Login also has a proper free trial, so there's no reason not to test it before committing to anything. So check those out before you buy Morelogin. That's it for today. More browser reviews in the playlist. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.